Assalamualaikum and good morning to our lecturer Dr. Jose and our fellow classmate. Today we are from group 3 and we will do our problem based learning presentation. These are our group member, me myself, Muhammad Khalif and Muhammad Noaiman. So this is our topic for today, which is a problem. The problem asks why did the Ammonoidea become extinct at the KT boundary while the Coleoidea did not. To solve this, we need to find the reason the Ammonoidea died earlier than the Coleoidea. And the main point that we need to take is the factor that the Ammonoidea went extinct and how the Coleoidea adapt and survive the extinction. Before that, we will do a little bit introduction about the species. Subclass Ammonoidea. It is from the class Cephalopoda from the phylum Mollusca. It first appeared in the Paleozoic, flourished in the Mesozoic, and became extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period. It has a buoyant shell that allowed them to swim effortless and give some defense. It is a nectonic organism, which means that it can swim freely in the ocean. It has an ammonite suture that is the same as the ram's horn. It is an excellent index fossil because of its worldwide distribution and variety of subspecies. Now about the subclass Coleoidea. It is also the class Cephalopoda from the phylum Mollusca. Its first appearance was in the Carboniferous period and had major radiation during the Tertiary. It have an internal cuttle bone, gladius, and used to have a shell. It is also a nectonic organism and one of the few species that still lives to this day. These are the fossils of the Ammonoidea and the Coleoidea. Our methodology to solve the problem is that we use websites and videos and articles that we could find on the internet as our source of information to solve this problem. Factors that led to Ammonoidea extinct at the KT boundary. The first point is the ocean acidification. It is caused by large amounts of acid rain and that increased the pH value of the ocean. The acidified water kills the baby Ammonoidea and also destroy the main food source, which is the plankton. This disruption of the food chain is what killed the rest of the Ammonoidea. The second is restricted distribution. The subclass Ammonoidea were restricted in terms of geographical distribution, but according to a paleontologist, there is some broad geographic distribution among Ammonoidea to increase their level of survival before going extinct. How the Coleoidea survived the KT boundary extinction event. First, losing the shell. Millions of years after the start of the Carboniferous, their shells began to shrink. This is because of the evolutionary arms race between fast-jawed fish and the cephalopods. And soon they lost the gas-filled chambers that kept them afloat, which is their shells. And they developed new way to stay buoyant via jet propulsion. The second is the gladius. The internal shell was streamlined down to a long chitinous structure called a gladius, kind of like a backbone. All squid alive today still have some kind of a gladius. And the deep sea. Armed with this adaptation, Coleoid begin to take advantage of a new environment, which is the deep sea. The the other the other species shells could not withstand the pressure, but the Coleoidea clades have no problem with it. Their ability to dip in the deep sea is what is what to it turned out to be what saved them from the extinction. This is a diagram of the body of Coleoidea and the Ammonoidea. As you can see here, the Coleoidea have fins and their clades right there. Yeah, mantle, siphon, beak, chromatophores, suckers, tentacles, and arms. While the Ammonoidea has the big round shell, siphonal chambers, the sercholine, mantle, beak, stomach, gills, and the funnels, or some people call the hypernome.
Thank you for Muhammad Khalif, my partner, for passing the slides to me. So my name is Ayman and I would like to present the remaining slide for today. The first we'll talk about the discussion. The discussion is what is the purpose of our study? The purpose of our study is to research the factors about the subclass Coleoidea survived the longest than the subclass Ammonoidea that were extinct during the Cretaceous period. So our discussion is that the first existing cephalopods exists around 500 million years ago during the Cambrian period. It was a little mollusk floated up off the ocean floor and they used the shell for buoyancy and reaching new heights. This creature was to believe the first cephalopod, according to studies. By the time Cambrian had moved or shifted to the Ordovician period, the cephalopods had entered a golden age, also known as the Great Ordovician Biodiversification Event. During the Ordovician period, there were a few predators threatening them, and a rise in oxygen levels in the ocean caused life to flourish, diversify, and occupy new habitats. This is also provide an abundance of food, so that's why the cephalopods was easy to diversify and expand their territory in the ocean. However, in the Devonian period, a new evolutionary pressure was waiting for the cephalopods. The rise of fast-jawed fish or fast-jawed armorfish. This kicked off a competition race between fish and cephalopods. Okay, now we'll talk about the first Ammonoidea. Okay, the first Ammonoidea exists from the order Narcistida. This subclass Ammonoidea, they cope with the rise of fish by living a concept of live fast, die young strategy. They also grew quickly and had many offsprings to prevent them from extinction and survive even longer. They end up being so successful, diverse, and numerous that their shells are now used as index fossils to define period in the Mesozoic. Next, we'll talk about the first Coleoidea. The Coleoidea exists during the Carboniferous period. They exist to deal with the fish problem. So they were the first Coleoidea. Billions of years through evolution, the shells of the Coleoidea began to shrink, so they lost the shells and developed new ways to stay buoyant, which was jet propulsion. Jet propulsion is to function for them is to make them swim faster. In time, the internal shell shape into some kind of backbone called gladius. With this adaptation, the Coleoidea started to explore and live in the deep sea. Okay, now we'll talk about the last part of our discussion is the KT extinction boundary on why the Ammonoidea died first while the Coleoidea exists longer than them. Okay, at the end of the Cretaceous period, a fatal blow struck Earth caused more than three-fourths of all plants and animal species to extinct. This is due to acid rain that changed the pH of the oceans, compromising the integrity of the shells of Ammonoidea needed to survive. The shell of Ammonoidea is made of aragonite, a form of calcium carbonate, or CaCO3. This hid baby Ammonoidea that live on the planktonic area. Uh, when the acid rain hit the baby Ammonoidea shells, the diluted acid inside the ocean reacts with the shell of baby Ammonoidea. It will dilute the shell and produce carbon dioxide gas. Baby Ammonoidea rely on their thin, fragile shells to passively float near the ocean surface. At the same time, the resulted acid rain caused a massive die-off of ammonite's main food source, which is plankton. This caused a lot of ammonites die of starvation since the scarce of food source. The second factor is the restricted distribution of Ammonoidea. According to research, however, there were a few distribution exists further away from the first genus. So the second genus and the first genus located at different locations, and this to prove that they somehow survived longer than the expected extinction event. So these are what paleontologists believe to be the cause of Ammonoidea extinctions. However, the coleoids were able to take refuge in the deep sea as they evolved through time, and they were no longer dependent on their shells and/or planktons. With the ammonites gone and conditions improved, coleoids rose up and took their place in the ocean. So the conclusion of our presentation is that the class Mollusca is divided into three classes: Ammonoidea, Coleoidea, and Nautiloidea. The factors involved the extinction of Ammonoidea is the ocean acidification. The second one is the restricted distribution. One of the ways Coleoidea survive from extinction is through losing the shell, the forming of radius, and the shifting location from the middle of the ocean to the deep sea. So we just discussed the event of the Ammonoidea and Coleoidea from beginning till now. Me and Khalif agree with the data that we found and collected on why subclass Ammonoidea extinct and subclass Coleoidea survive till today. That's all for me. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we will try our best to answer them according to our knowledge.